Hi, I'm Joanne Klein, a six-time MVP in Microsoft Apps and Services and owner of Next Novus Consulting, and I'm happy to be joined with Chris McNulty from Microsoft today.
Thanks, Joanne. Great to sit down with you.
Great to sit down with you too. So how is the conference going? We're here at the Microsoft 365 Conference. How is it so far?
It's really great to see kind of the energy and enthusiasm, I'd say, across the audience, not just our customers, but our partners. It's funny, we had MVP Summit up in the Microsoft campus a few weeks ago, and I was saying we haven't seen so many people moving around in years. And I think the best news about the community this week is we're back, and it's great to have so much energy and enthusiasm and volume, in things like the keynote, and then seeing breakout rooms be filled, along with what feels like great energy and enthusiasm for our announcements and updates.
I agree. It's really great to be back in person, and I feel that energy from the attendees and the other speakers as well. It's good to feed off the crowd, so that's great.
For sure.
Yeah. So some conversations you've had with attendees and Microsoft customers this week. What kind of conversations are you having?
I've been having a fair number of conversations about Syntex, and as well as things like Viva and Purview and the rest, but it's really been humbling, the level of attention. The team has put a lot of, kind of while we've been back in Redmond, and before we could come out and see people, attention into the demos and announcements and the releases that we've been making. And when I sort of look left to right across not just what Microsoft is doing, but what the community is doing, and that there's ad hoc breakout groups and MVPs delivering sessions, and the energy and interest for what we're doing with Syntex, with AI, with Copilot is really humbling. But I would say there's a lot we still have to do, because there are still questions about what does Syntex do? What can I do with it? And I think this is a place where Microsoft can do a better job, and we need our MVPs and our partners to help us with that.
That is a question I get from my own customers quite a bit. So being able to articulate that message is really important.
Right. How do you answer it?
I take a lead off of you, a suite of apps and services. It's more than one thing. It covers a broad domain of content services and content management with a layer of AI. It's sometimes a hard thing to explain to customers, but getting real, I think, with the application of some of these apps and services that it provides really resonates with some of my customers.
I think it's totally important for us to get it right, and one of the things that we get coming to an event like M365 Conference is we get to hear and learn from how people react to it, and hopefully get it better next time.
Yes. Microsoft had some big announcements for Syntex last fall. So fast forward to the Microsoft 365 Conference right now. What is some of the latest news you can share with us?
Well, some of the updates that we made just within the last several weeks is Syntex, as you know, is this range of about 22 different apps and services, which are all moving to a consumptive model, to pay as you go. And so that has a couple of implications. So we've announced coming later on this spring in the Northern Hemisphere, because it's not spring in the Southern Hemisphere, as I've been reminded by some of my overseas colleagues. We're rolling out new services for translation, for optical character recognition, for image processing, and bringing content assembly available in a pay-as-you-go service. And part of the whole reason for that is, as we talked to customers when we were incubating what had been SharePoint Syntex under a seat license, for every person who needed to work with these services on a daily basis where a license made sense, there'd be a dozen or 100 people who needed to use it once a week, once a month, once a quarter. Yes. And buying up all those licensing in case someone needs them doesn't get the kind of coverage. So being able to move and say all these things and capabilities, whether it's the document processing, things that we haven't announced availability dates for, but that are definitely coming, like e-signature, we want to make those services available to as many people as possible. The other thing that we announced is, as we're making this pivot, there are things that just probably don't make as much sense for being a consumptive service. And with those, particularly, those are content query and universal annotations. So content query, if you think about one of the magic things that Syntex does, is it takes a bunch of unstructured documents and puts structure and fills out all those columns for you. One of the reasons to do that is so you can go back and find the right information. So content query uses a form-based approach to help you get back and say, I'm just looking for the purchase orders in South America from 1999 and filter that list down for you when you have a very large list. That's being made available kind of across M365, as well as universal annotations. So if you're familiar with how this works in the Office tools, where you can open up a Word document and add comments and @mention people and do inking, we're taking that same pattern and making it available to all of the 380 file types that we support viewing for across M365. So whether it's something like a DICOM X-ray file or a PDF or an image, all of those annotation capabilities, again, we're going to make them broadly available and use them as a way to remind people there's even more that you can do in Syntex with things like document processing.
Fantastic capabilities, and I hear use cases for this and can see it with the customers I work with. And one thing I particularly love about the extraction of metadata, I have that conversation with information architects that's a long-standing knowledge domain that has been around in the SharePoint environment for many years, and they love that capability inside Microsoft Syntex because it automatically extracts that metadata and sets it accurately and consistently all of the time, and then really that provides the ability for you to benefit from having that metadata there in the first place.
The other thing I think that's really interesting is if you look kind of at those historical domains of
Yes.
records management or taxonomists.
Yes.
These are things that have been important for compliance and governance, but when we look at what's dawning with AI, Syntex is a piece of it, Copilot's definitely a big piece of it. The way that we approach it is the AI helps you determine what it is that you want to do, but the quality of your content is directly matched to the quality of the output you're going to get from the AI. So if your content is unstructured, disordered, unsecured, you're not going to get the quality of results. And so some of those kind of long tenured skills, I think what's nice is they're actually moving to the forefront of relevance and need, whether they're coming from the product perspective or you're a practitioner. I think they're going to be so important for this industry over the next several years and beyond.
I 100% agree. And with the records management all up, I believe, is moving towards not only the compliance aspect, which has always been the case, but also how they can help improve business effectiveness and through process digitalization, and how can they help improve business risk in an organization. And I believe having that Syntex tool available to them can really help them in the modern workplace. Right. So when you're having conversations with Microsoft customers and partners, what are some of the things that they're excited about specifically on Microsoft Syntex?
It's interesting. Some of the use cases and patterns are predictable ones, and then there's things that sort of take off that we didn't expect to kind of be the successes that they seem to be coming. One of them that we have not, I think, published a ship date for, but it's close, is Taxonomy Tagger. So Taxonomy Tagger is the simplest kind of document processing model we have. It is basically assign a taxonomy column to a library, map it to a term set, and as you upload documents, it will apply text analytics and automatically tag the docs for you. And that's when I looked at and said, people aren't going to really use that. And we have so many customers who are like, is there a preview program? Can I get in? Can I, I'll pay double if I can get it sooner. That's reassuring and says, I think we're building one of the right things. The other is content assembly. And we have some customers, some fairly large manufacturing customers who are taking on 500 to 1,000 people a week as new employees. All of the onboarding documentation that they're doing is being brokered by Syntex content assembly, and being able to branch off and do the conditionality of, you're eligible for stocks, so you have to get this incentive plan, and you've got this medical benefit, and you're working outside of the US, so you have a different employee handbook structure. All of that they're using to dynamically build custom onboarding docs for every one of their employees. And that's another case where it feels like it's really coming together. The last one is, I can't disclose the financial institution, but with OCR, which is in public paid preview right now, we have a banking institution who is using it to classify 1.6 million new financial images a week.
Wow.
So, yeah, and it's cost-effective for them, and it drives compliance and search and all the goodness. So it's great to get through the announcement period of these things, but it's really great when you see that you're impacting people, not just businesses, but people's time and helping them do things that they couldn't do before.
Yes, and at such large scales. Yes, I mean, these are real problems that businesses are trying to solve.
And it works.
And it works, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So can you share anything with us about what's the future look like for Syntex?
So there's definitely things I've alluded to, e-signature, backup and archive. We've said we intend to do things in these areas. We should have some formal announcements coming in the next several months. We just weren't ready to make them here this week at the M365 conference, but those are definitely coming up. And certainly top of mind is everything that we're doing with OpenAI and large language models and Copilot. Again, something I'm not prepared to talk about, but definitely subject of some intense design research. We are not done making announcements across Microsoft about Copilot.
Awesome. I'm very interested to hear
Yes.
where that's going to go.
Yes.
Awesome.
I'd be curious to, you've been here this week and looking at the Syntex announcements and the rest of M365. What are some of your impressions and takeaways of the conference?
I have talked to several people about the Syntex capabilities, what they're thinking of using it for. They are trying to understand how maybe they could use it in their own organization. So talking about those use cases, I'm, as a consultant that works in the field directly with customers and they're reaching out to me to help, I'm always trying to help them, I guess, use the tools in ways that can benefit their business. So having those conversations with people, they're intrigued with the announcements. The Syntex backup and archiving is something that many of my customers are interested in. That longer term, more cost-effective storage is a big thing for customers. So it's been a great week for having those conversations.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. You've been such a great advocate for Microsoft and for our customers, for a good long while. It's great to be able to sit down with you again today and see you here in Las Vegas.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having the chat today, and I look forward to seeing how we can work together and where Syntex is going to evolve.
Thanks again.
Thank you.